Let's go make a killing.
All right.
Welcome to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
10 to the 5 to the 4, play one, touchdown!
The sharpest football contest show in the land.
I'll take the action. My Birds, Benjamin Franklin's team, favored by 1.5 points. I'll give you 3 more.
You're now riding shotgun with 2 former contest winners in Brady, Kannon and James Salinas. And getting a former player's perspective with 9-year NFL veteran Mike Pritchard.
Let's go!
As they guide you through strategy, process, and your contest picks each and every week of the season.
I do like the idea of a parlay.
Now here's your host, Brady Kannon.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here with you once again inside the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, presented by our friends at Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. I am Brady Kannon, along with Mike Pritchard and James Salinas. Week 11 in the NFL is upon us. Circus Sports Million, the Westgate SuperContest, Circus Survivor, they are all alive and well. And let's get to the details for what happened in Week 10. Another sub 500 for the consensus in Week 10. The SuperContest consensus 5 went 2-3. The overall record there is 22, 27, and 1. Circus Sports Million also 2-3. They are now 20 and 30 on the year. So I say it again, we do every week. If all you're doing is waking up Sunday morning and going against the consensus, you're at a ripe 57.5% on your bets this year. Our entry, we went 3-2. We had a nice week. It looked like we could almost have an awesome week of 4-1 or 5-0, but ended up with a 3-2 in our continuing pursuit of the quarterlies and the mini contests within the contest. We talked about that last week on the program. We're probably not going to win any big prize here. We're not going to ascend all the way to the top. So we have changed our strategy to just focus week by week, quarter by quarter. And we got off to a good start. Week number 10 was the first of another quarterly prize in the Circus Sports Million and another mini contest beginning in the Super Contest. So not bad there with a 3-2 start out of the gate for us. Circus Survivor, 46 entries were eliminated in Week 10. Those people relying on Daniel Jones and the New York Football Giants in London. The Carolina Panthers take out Survivor entries for 2 weeks in a row. 30 people on the Giants, 14 on the Bears as they were taken out by the Patriots, and then a couple of entries on the Atlanta Falcons as well. 105 entries remain. We are almost under 100 entries live in Circus Survivor. And now that ticket that you purchased over the summer, 6 figures strong, almost $136,000 of inherent value. Gentlemen, let's dive into the handicap of the games in Week 11. We've got some real duds and some real dandies, and we'll start out with a pretty good one. An age-old rivalry in the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers visiting the Chicago Bears. James, I will start with you.
Fellas, how much time do we have in this segment? Because there is so much to unpack in this game. First, we know it's one of the longest standing rivalries in the NFL. And thinking about and we know these teams just hate each other. Fans don't like each other. This is hate in this household. There's a lot of 4-letter words that fly around in here during football season, especially on Sundays. Hate is not one of them. It's when I try to tell my kids not to use that 4-letter word. The other ones are okay. That one's not. But I think about these two teams. They definitely do not like each other. We'll leave it at that. But wow, thinking about what is unpacked this week, we knew eventually, just thinking about where this Bears offense has been and how it's really regressed, firing a Shane Waldron, offense coordinator for the Bears. You knew that was going to be a given. Kind of surprised that they didn't just clean house and fire the whole staff. Probably figuring that'll happen at the end of the season for the Chicago Bears. They'll be looking for a brand new hire on both sides of the football in Chicago. But wow, just thinking about the regression we see. Not that we saw Caleb Williams get off to a super hot start. We saw the Bears get off to a good start to begin the season. Really regressed, and especially they've never recovered since that Hail Mary loss in Washington a few weeks back. But really just no fight, no punch for these Bears the last couple weeks. And I think it's been thinking that where this offense is, there is no offense. There was no offense last week, 3 points at home playing the Patriots. Now, where are they going to go with this division rival with the Packers? I know this number's big. And if you think about where this Packers team is, they're coming off a bye. They're getting healthy. Jordan Love not on the injury report this week. Practice in full as far as the quarterback status for the Green Bay Packers in this matchup, but also this recently, the last 5 years, actually. So however recent that is, depending on your age, man, the last 10 games that they've played the last 5 years, the Packers have dominated. Not only have they won 10 straight against the Bears, which includes 5 games in Chicago, but that average margin of victory, fellas, has been the Packers by 12.5 points. So not only are they winning, they are covering and they are pounding the Chicago Bears team. I see more of the same going into Sunday here with the Packers. I know I've whether it's 5 or 5.5 in these contests, below that 6, I like it. I think the Packers continue their dominance over the last 5 years of this Bears team here. Pritch, what do you say about the Packers in this matchup?
Yeah, I love the Packers in the matchup because I think it's strength on weakness here, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the off-season, off-the-field stuff for the Bears has been just chaotic. A lot of turmoil go on. Eberflus is still there because he has the same agent as Poles, the GM, right? So that's going to be interesting development at the end of the year if they do part ways there. But a trademark for Eberflus as a defense, they get turnovers. They're plus territory when it comes to turnovers, which is impressive defensively if you look at the Bears. But where they falter in my mind in a matchup that kind of it gives the advantage to the Packers certainly is trying to stop the run. The Bears, they're 24th on the league trying to stop the run. You would think they'd be more physical than what they are, but they're not playing that physical. I think the Packers are going to bring their hard hat on this one. You talk about the rivalry aspect of it, James. The Packers, they need to rev up that running game, certainly if they want to go deep in the playoffs. I think Jordan Love will be okay as well. That number was intriguing when you're looking about 5 points, 5.5. But I think it's doable for the Packers right there in the matchup. Another game I was focused on, guys, is just the fact that the NFC South just continues to impress on how they do not play well each and every week or consistent. I mean, they're underachievers down there in the NFC South. And you got the Browns and the Saints here, guys. You're looking at a number of 1 on the screen now. The Saints feel good about beating the Falcons, but why? I don't know. I mean, the Falcons, they threw that game away. Where the Saints, to me, are concerned is just the lack of consistency. They did well running the football, Taysom Hill back. That's awesome for what they want to do offensively. But now they play the Browns, and the Browns are a better unit defensively than I think anybody has seen in that division, right? So I think this is a interim coach situation, drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit, being all raw, being all happy. But here you go with the Browns and Jameis Winston coming in there being motivated. The Browns certainly motivated in this one. I think they get physical on this one. And I don't see I don't see the Saints rising to that level again like they did against the Falcons last week, Brady. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, the new coach bounce theory worked, swimmingly for the New Orleans Saints. They, the Atlanta Falcons laid an egg. They missed at least 3 field goals, if I recall. They certainly caught the Falcons off guard. And like I say, the interim coach, he really had these guys inspired. Will that last a couple weeks in a row? I don't think so. This Saints team is still not very good. They're still very injured. And now you get a Browns team that just had a week of rest, a bye week after their struggles. We know they've had a tough time all season long. So the bye week is a good thing for them. They get to reset, work on their problems. They've gotten a lot healthier. I'm not seeing it. Looked like that offensive line was pretty much beaten up all season. I'm not seeing those guys on the injury report this week. I made the game a pick 'em, and it opened up in favor of the Saints -2, but the Browns have taken the money, and I agree where that money is gone. There's a lot of pick 'ems in the live market right now. So take the point, with the Browns and the contest. I'm with you guys. The Packers, I had a little pause. I made the number 5. It opened up like 6 or something. A little money came in on the Bears. Then it went back to the Packers. Pretty much 5.5 in the live market right now. But, in our pre-show meeting this morning, you guys pretty much sold. I never wanted to be on the Bears. I was just wondering if I wanted to be on the Packers. And you're right. That dominance that they've had for so many years now, the Bears are in a bad spot right now. And I would not be surprised if that dominance for Green Bay continues this Sunday at Soldier Field. More on the other side. We're breaking down Week 11 here on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. We'll be right back.
When the football contest crew isn't busy dominating the field and making plays that leave opponents in the dust, they're doing something just as exciting. They're playing My Vegas Slots. It's a top-ranked, free-to-play mobile app that lets you earn valuable real-world rewards from amazing partners like MGM Grand, Bellagio, and Norwegian Cruise Line. You can score hotel stays, great meals, show tickets, and more just for playing. Download My Vegas Slots today from your favorite app store. And if you're anything like Brady, James, and Mike, we know you're going to love it. That's a winning play you won't want to miss.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Check us out online, footballcontestshow.com. You can find everything up there where you can find us on podcast, YouTube, you name it, footballcontestshow.com. Continuing the breakdown of the card in Week 11 from both an against the spread perspective and, of course, Circus Survivor. We'll get there in a minute for those of you that are not only still alive in Circus Survivor, but Survivor contests around the world. We start off here with a biggie. One of the biggest games on the schedule for Week 11 certainly will go down in Pittsburgh, an AFC North rivalry that's been going on for a long, long time. The Ravens coming to Pittsburgh in the role of a favorite, a 3-point favorite. That's what it is in the live market. That's what it is in the contest here in town. And I'll tell you guys, I made the number 1.5 in favor of Baltimore. All my numbers, when I crunch all the stats, come out to basically a pick'em game here. If I had to bet the game, I'd be on Pittsburgh. But boy, this one's scary. I mean, you're dealing with a fierce contest here. I don't know if I'll be involved. I know you are, Pritch. What's your breakdown?
Oh, I love the Steelers. I mean, I've loved them all year from the beginning of the year. You know, a lot of people shied away from the Steelers because of the schedule. But I quickly remind people that this is a Steelers team that last year within the division went 5-1 without a suitable offensive coordinator and certainly without a consistent player at quarterback. Now they have Russell Wilson, who has won a Super Bowl, a guy who certainly the guys can respect. You know, he's not as corny as he used to be either, right? You don't see that because he can't, because he's got a dominant personality above him. Like in Seattle when he had Pete Carroll, now he's got Mike Tomlin. So now you don't have Russell Wilson and his antics and having an office with the coaches and acting like he's his own person. No, he's part of a team, and that shows. And so I think the respect is there. Pickens is involved, deep threat in terms of the offense. They're running the football. They're still being powerful. They're still getting the game into the fourth quarter too, which is interesting. You know, when you think about where the Ravens are and how they got exploited against the Bengals in that defense. I mean, if they're not outscoring people, if Lamar Jackson isn't doing MVP kind of things, and same thing with Derrick Henry, then this team can struggle, right? And I see the consistency with Pittsburgh all year. So from a contest standpoint, I don't know where you guys are at with this one, but man, give me the points, give me some teasers. I'm all about the Steelers this week.
Yeah, Pritch, I think for this matchup here, when we're talking the Steelers and the Ravens, the last segment, we were talking a great rivalry when it came to the Bears and the Packers. Now, long-standing rivalry. Now, they haven't really been all that great, especially the Bears, as far as being competitive in the league. These two teams have been fighting year in and year out. This is going to be just as a football fan, this is going to be a great game to watch. It's a game I look forward to each year. And I think the thing with the Steelers, Rich, you were mentioning their dominance in the division last year. This is a team that both these teams and all those teams within the division know each other inside and out. And I think that's what's been interesting about the Steelers and how they've been able to defend Lamar Jackson in the games that they've played against him. I think Lamar Jackson is 1-3 against the Steelers in his career. He's been hurt for a few games. There's been a few times where late in the season, the Steelers or the Ravens have already wrapped up the seeding and it didn't really matter, so they didn't play. But I think within those games that he's played, only 4 touchdown passes in those 4 matchups and 7 interceptions along with 20 sacks. So Steelers know how to contain Lamar Jackson within the pocket, make him a pocket passer, take away the dual dimension of him being able to utilize and extend plays with his feet, whether it's running and or getting outside the pocket and making throws down the field. I do like the Steelers here as the home dog plus the 3. I thought it was interesting. And I know we're talking contest plays and we don't do totals, but I looked at that total. I think it opened at 44.5. It's already up to 48.5. I'm kind of interested to see why that went so high with two teams that know each other well. I know the Ravens defense has not been
Ravens
good, but
defense stinks.
but think about who they played. Remember back in week 4, they played Buffalo and kicked the shit out of Buffalo in that game. Buffalo couldn't do anything offensively. Now I think it's just the 2 games that we've seen against Joe Burrow and that passing offense. If you take those 2 games away, maybe it's not quite as bad. I'm not going to say that it's a great defense there, that secondary, but I think this is a defense that has had 10 days to prepare themselves. And you know what? I think they're embarrassed as well. And I think there's a lot of veterans and there's some good talent on that defensive side of the Ravens. I'm just shocked that number is as high. And I want to see it out of Russell Wilson. I think that's probably why this is going to be a game that I'm going to stay off of, is because I need to see Russell Wilson be able to go into this matchup and play a different style of football. This is going to be a gritty game, and he's going to have to step up. And I know he has a great deep ball, and he and Pickens they've really built a good chemistry here. But this is a different matchup. This is a whole different intensity that he's going to feel in this Ravens rivalry here. And I think that's where I need to see it first. I'm hopeful that they do. I'd like the Steelers in this matchup. But for me, Brady, it's one that I'm just not going to be able to go inside and say, yeah, let's put this one on our contest card.
You know, I think I'm with you 100%, James. I can't wait to watch the game. And not only, Mike, am I going to root for your bets to come through? Yeah. I'm going to be a Steeler fan. This team has been great to watch. What's that?
What are you scared of? They're number 1 against the rush as a defense, but number 32 against.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think so. Here's what's up for me. They haven't had Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry now gives this offense a different dimension where it's not just Lamar Jackson having to go and make all the plays with his legs, with his arm. They have Derrick Henry that they can say, hey, we can rush the football. We can be just as physical with you guys offensively as what the Steelers like to do. And I think that's where, for me, Henry's such a game changer and runs. And he's that guy that gets better as the game progresses. He just gets stronger and stronger and starts to wear teams down. I just need to see it out of Pittsburgh for 4 quarters in that matchup to have to go against Derrick Henry and then Lamar Jackson, because that's a matchup that they haven't had in the past in this rivalry.
Yeah, no, well said, James. I mean, that offense is really good. The offense is as good as the defense, as the passing defense is bad. And if that offense, starts to wear down that Steeler D, I don't know if that Steeler offense can keep up. I imagine, if I had to bet it, Mike, I'd absolutely be with you guys, taking the home dog here. Like I said, I made it 1.5. When I crunch all the stats, it comes out to the Ravens by 0.5. So I would be taking it here with the Steelers, but I'll probably just sit back and enjoy this one in what I think will be an outstanding game. When we come back on the other side, I want to introduce another game that I think it's very interesting, maybe not so entertaining to watch, but the Las Vegas Raiders coming out of a bye week, visiting the Miami Dolphins, who are off of a win over the Los Angeles Rams on Monday Night Football. I think this one will be interesting. We'll discuss it here on the other side in the Las Vegas Football Contest Show when we return.
Want to enter the biggest and best football contests in Las Vegas, but don't know where to start? Look no further than footballcontest.com to get the info you need to succeed in the biggest football contests in the world. Circa Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate SuperContest. Reserve the most trusted proxy service in the business now at footballcontest.com. Maddie and Tony have been leaders in the industry for 15 years. They submit your picks while you focus on picking winners. Experience matters. Go with the pros at footballcontest.com and start winning now.
Welcome back, everybody. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show rolling along here in Week 11 breakdowns in the NFL. And I introduced it in the last segment, the Miami Dolphins hosting the Las Vegas Raiders. This was one that jumped out at me early in the week, guys. Why do the Miami Dolphins all of a sudden deserve to be a 7 or 8 point favorite over anybody? They won a game on Monday night in a real good spot situationally. We talked about it last week. I thought it was a good setup for them. They have been improving since Tua's return. I thought the stock on the Los Angeles Rams was getting a little too high. And sure enough, the Rams laid an egg and Miami wins. Now, they've only won 1 game in their last 7, and yet they're laying, 7, 8 points. It started out at 8. The money's come in on the Las Vegas Raiders, which I agree with. Now, they've lost 5 in a row, but they got to have a bye week. They get to reset. They get to, correct what's wrong. and they've always given the Dolphins trouble in South Florida. I'm on the Raiders here, Pritch. What about you?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think that line is because of the turmoil with the Raiders or with them during a bye week, as AP Antonio Pierce is seemingly losing credibility. He fired Getsy, which I knew was going to happen. There was friction all season there, and they were not on the same page. So now you have Scott Turner and Norv Turner, the Turner family, coming involved here with the Raiders, which will be
they're hoping to Turner the corner on offense, right?
That's right. I think the element of surprise could be with the Raiders a little bit offensively. The defense will have to keep them involved, though, and keep them in the game. We know Max Crosby is a game wrecker, but can they stop the run consistently, though, against the Dolphins, who the Dolphins have corrected things by running the football more, right, and running the football more efficiently. And that goes back to McDaniel, who was the run coordinator when he was with the 49ers. So we all are used to the Dolphins and Tua throwing the ball, but they got to protect Tua a little bit too, right? But Max Crosby coming off of the blind side of Tua gets interesting to me. And then the Raiders being able to hold this game close. The only pause I have is that early start time for the Raiders as they travel across country. But they beat down Baltimore, right? We saw that happen early in the year. Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback again. The offense with Norv Turner and Scott Turner is a rhythm offense. You count your steps, either a 3-step drop, a 5-step drop, and that ball's got to get out of there. So we might see, a quicker passing game, a more efficient passing game, and certainly trying to run the football with Philbin now as a head coach, as an offensive line coach. So the Raiders are in creative mode, trying to find an identity. So maybe they can catch the Dolphins by surprise here. And I agree with you. I think the Dolphins laying 7 is way too much the way that they've been playing so far this year.
Fellas, I think for me, when we start to get now into this second half of the season and players and teams start to make business decisions, whether it's coaches getting fired or players getting benched or some players walking off the field during plays, we'll get to that later. What I don't want to do when I start to handicap these games, and I agree, I think the 7, that's an overreaction. I don't want to lay it with the Dolphins here, but when I have to look at a matchup, I don't want to have to factor into the handicap. Do I trust this team to show up this weekend? Yeah. Do I think the Raiders are going to show up for 4 quarters? Are they going to play hard and stay consistent? If they're ahead, they'll compete. But what happens if this team falls behind? The Dolphins start pounding the football. Are the Raiders just going to are they going to break? And we've seen them break. We saw them a couple of weeks ago break against the Cincinnati Bengals, competed for a quarter. That's as far as it went. So this one's not going to make my card. I just don't trust the Raiders to show up for an entirety of 4 quarters. They have to be front runners. If they're not a team that I'd like to come back. Another game real quick, Brady, that I'm looking at. We love division games, and now we're starting to get into them. A lot of division matchups here as we start the second half of the season. Seattle against San Francisco. Now, this is a pretty large number, too. Pretty disappointing effort. San Francisco did get the win last weekend down in Tampa, but we took them. We laid the number with it. They didn't come close to covering beyond what the field goal kicker was doing and not being able to put it through the uprights. But I think in this matchup here with Seattle, the one thing that's a little different here, and maybe we talk about this as we come back, thinking about all the players on the defensive side for the Seahawks that were not in that first matchup on that short week on Thursday with Lucas, Byron Murphy, Reek Woolen, and now the transfer, Ernest Jones from Tennessee. They're all going to be here this weekend against San Francisco. I'm kind of leaning towards Seattle. We'll see how that matchup plays out this weekend, Brady. Maybe we'll talk about this as the series progresses.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this one. I think it's probably a stay away game for me. It's very interesting where my numbers can come out. I made the line 5.5. When I crunch all the stats, it comes out to 6.5. So there's no real edge there from a numbers standpoint. The Niners have owned the Seahawks as of late, and I wouldn't be surprised if they rolled them here again. I don't think Seattle's a very good team. They are coming off of a bye, so they've had extra time to prepare here. A little bit of a revenge situation for Seattle, who was beaten by San Francisco earlier this season. And like you say, James, it was underwhelming the way San Francisco came out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a pretty pedestrian effort there down in Tampa Bay. So I'm kind of torn on this one. We'll come back on the other side and get into Circus Survivor talk as we break down some of the big favorites on the card in Week 11. Stick around. It's more of the Las Vegas Football Contest show in just a moment.
San Diego is home to Wolfpack Hospitality Restaurants, located in beautiful La Jolla. Stop by Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria on your next trip. Visit Cove House, a top 100 brunch in California, or Shore Rider, serving up margaritas, fish tacos, and a vibe that will make you feel like a regular in no time. For a slice of New York-style pizza with a California twist, it's Dough Mama Pizzeria, where the wings and pizza draw compliments from around the world. Go to wolfpackhospitality.com, and we will look forward to seeing you at Cove House, Shore Rider, and Dough Mama Pizzeria.
Want to gamble like the pros? At LasVegasAdvisor.com, you'll find the world's best how-to books, software, and strategy cards featuring blackjack, poker, video poker, and of course, sports betting, including the Stanford Wong Classic Sharp Sports Betting. Don't forget LVA's Member Rewards coupon book, offering discounts on dining and entertainment, including a buy one, get one for the awesome lobster buffet at the Palms, and more than $700 in gambling-free play, match play, and bonus offers. Up your gambling game today at LasVegasAdvisor.com.
Welcome back into the Las Vegas Football Contest show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Check us out online, footballcontestshow.com. You can find everything up there where you can find us on podcast, YouTube, you name it, footballcontestshow.com. Now, Circus Survivor down to just 105 live entries. They started with over 14,000. If you're still alive in a Survivor pool across the country, across the world, congratulations to you. We want to talk about some of the big favorites this week. You've got the Detroit Lions visiting the Jacksonville Jaguars. You've got the Minnesota Vikings. They are a big favorite as well. And then also on Monday night, the Houston Texans taking on the Dallas Cowboys, a battle of Texas there, the Lone Star State. And the Texans are a big favorite in that one. The biggest favorite on the board, Mike, and we saw it open up around 12.5. It's all the way up to 14. And that's what it is in the contest as well. Obviously, in this case, you're just asking the Lions to win the game outright. I imagine they can pull it off.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even at golf, he throw 5 interceptions last game?
Yeah.
And they still won, right? The Lions are probably the best team in football. A lot of people are starting to come to that conclusion. Now they got to be consistent. I think Campbell, he has a pulse on his team. He knows how to get them prepared and keep this team motivated. There's a bunch of former players on that staff. They bring a ton of energy too. So it's a good position to be in. Certainly if you have the Lions available in Survivor. Now, here's where it gets interesting because you have a decision to make with that large home favorite situation for the Lions this week. But then down the road, you still have Thanksgiving to think about. That's only if you have one entry, though. If you have multiple entries, now it gets really intriguing. So say you had 2 or 3 entries and you're part of this 100, you can theoretically play the Lions, right? And then still come back on your other entry and play the Lions on Thanksgiving. So you're staying alive that way. But if it's dicey for you, you only have one entry going into the week this week. I mean, the Texans, you can utilize them. They're getting healthier. The Cowboys are falling apart, as we know. And so, yeah, I mean, those situations are intriguing to me when you think about that. You mentioned that I think we had the Dolphins up there too. And I don't know if I would go with the Dolphins on a Survivor play at this point. I know it's a large favorite, but I'm not there with the Dolphins yet. The Texans, I can kind of get there only because you're fading the Cowboys. But more power to you, though, in Survivor, if you have multiple entries left right now, James. I mean, that was our plan going into it. We had 3 entries, but we're part of the 14,000 sitting here watching it.
Well, we took the beating early, so we got the punishment out of the way, I suppose. I think with the Thanksgiving, that's the quirk to it, Thanksgiving and also the Christmas and the day after Christmas, that match or those matchups too, have to be thinking ahead. And I think some of those things have changed, thinking, well, Detroit, I know originally it was kind of like, well, I think is the Packers the play on Thanksgiving? Because you really have to start to consider that you've had to consider this the entire season, but now it's real, right? Now you're 2 weeks away. You got 2 games and then it's Thanksgiving. And now that quirk in the schedule is here. But I know that you've got Green Bay at home hosting the Miami Dolphins, warm weather, having to go to cold weather team. And A few weeks ago, it looked like that was going to be a sure thing, Green Bay, but then you saw the injuries with Love, didn't look so good. And then now Tua's coming back, looking healthier, looking better. We know it's a week-to-week league. Those things can change that quickly with just one hit on your key player, your quarterback, for instance, for both those teams. But I look at some of these other games, and I know you don't have to pick all 32. You only have to pick 20 because you got 20 weeks. So there's 12 games you can discard. Looking at some of these games, and I know we touched on the Browns and the Saints, and I like the Browns in this matchup for here, but not for $14 million. I can't recommend to say, would we be willing to put this on there? But if you think about the Browns, no one's going to really want to play the Browns here. But if you, depending on where you're at and how many teams you were kind of putting in your pocket to say, of these 20, here's where we're at. I'm sure some of those, you might have been thinking the Bears if you hadn't used them. That one's going to be gone. I don't think the Bears win another game for the rest of the season. That might be the way to go. Who are they playing each week in and week out? And if you have that team available, that's probably the team to go in right there and fade the Bears on a weekly basis. But where are the Browns at right now compared to where the Saints are? I like the Browns to go in and win this game. We know it's basically a coin toss. But if you think of where the Browns are and you've had to shift maybe those 20 teams and have to find some teams because you're down to some seeds and stems of teams to plug in there, maybe the Browns are that team to be able to do that, because you're not going to see, I don't know if the Browns can win another game going forward here. They have a short week playing Pittsburgh. They play at Denver. They play at Pittsburgh, Kansas City the next week, at Cincinnati, then host Miami, and then at Baltimore. That's a gauntlet of a schedule. It's going to be a rough finish for the Browns. I think this is the one game on their schedule, Brady, that they can win.
Yeah, and 100% availability as well.
Yeah.
Everybody remaining in Circus Survivor. You see the graphic there. If you're watching, 100% availability on the Cleveland Browns. So, yeah, it's a dicey one on the road, a pick'em game. But I feel you. I mean, we like the Browns. It's probably going to make our card. Why not? If you had multiple entries,
right,
trying to figure out, what's going to be the most popular pick this week. I think I might have to go with the Lions here. And I was errant when I introduced this segment saying that the Lions are on the road. They're at home, finally.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't know it. They still might be a 14-point favorite on the road with Mac Jones leading the charge there for Jacksonville. But I think I would actually take the Lions. I mean, you get to this point, the inherent value of your ticket is $136,000. This is also the point where I would start to try and monetize, guys. I said that to myself a couple seasons ago. If I got to the point where the value of that ticket is in the six figures, I'd start to try and do some hedging and prepare for, trying to suck some money out of what has been a great deal of success so far in any Survivor contest at this point. But James, you talk about the Packers on Thanksgiving. Absolutely. It's going to be cold. You would expect in late November in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and you've got a warm weather team coming up there to take them on. That was the game that I had circled for Thanksgiving all along. So I don't mind getting rid of the Lions. And if you've still got the Chiefs available, you've got them hosting the Raiders at home as a part of that Thanksgiving card as well. So I would probably go Lions here, Pritch. The Vikings at the Titans, and the Titans have been a punching bag for teams that you want to go against in Survivor. The most popular pick last week was the Chargers, who beat up on the Titans. And I could go against the Titans again, but Minnesota starting to regress a little bit. I mean, gosh, they barely got out of Jacksonville last week alive. Sam Darnold turned it over, 3 or 4 times? I don't know if I'd want to rely on Minnesota here this week, Mike.
Yeah, it's time for Kannon to kind of rein Sam Darnold in a little bit. I know you got Addison, you have Justin Jefferson, you have all these weapons, but you got to run the football, and you got to believe in that defense. I mean, that defense really has helped out Minnesota in a lot of ways, and being able to just disrupt passers, being able to stop the run, can kind of control the line of scrimmage. You got to get to that complementary aspect of the game. And Sam Darnold, you have to know that there's a reason why he's on your team, having been drafted 3rd overall years ago. So understand that. And if they do, then the Vikings should be okay. But they are certainly an outlier situation, right? I mean, they got rid of Danielle Hunter, they got rid of some premium players, and I think Flores has a chip on his shoulder, if not both shoulders. And so, you're seeing that. You're seeing that effort time and time again from the Vikings. But from a Survivor standpoint, God, I don't know if I can rely
Pritch,
on
right. Well, think about it. Think about the teams that have gone down the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So what was it last week? It was going to be
Saints.
the Giants and Giants and Daniel Jones, right? So Daniel Jones didn't make the ball club. Now you're like, God, right? So Daniel Jones the week before that, it was Derek Carr and the Saints. Now you're going to come back to Darnold. So sometimes it's looking at these quarterbacks, and I know we so much focus goes on the quarterback. There's still a lot of other, the matchups are key, but with these quarterbacks, do you want it to be at the end of the day? Darnold was the one that took us down. Kind of fits into that same category. I know he got off to a great start. You were saying that earlier, Pritch, but kind of fits in that same category with Daniel Jones and Derek Carr. Just not somebody I'm going to put my money on to trust for that much money on the line.
Yeah. And then you've got C.J. Stroud at the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't know what to make of the Cowboys. They have just regressed so far down. I mean, every week it seems like we're saying it's a good spot for Dallas, and they don't make the most of it. I'd be on the Lions as far as Circus Survivor. Yeah. Back with more against the spread perspective when we return on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Looking for your next ultimate golf experience? Discover Valley High Golf Club, a tropical paradise on the Las Vegas Strip, featuring lush greenery, water features, Balinese tropical plants, white sand, and black volcanic rock, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Valley High creates a memorable golf experience for a typical foursome, a group celebrating a bachelor or bachelorette party, or your next corporate outing. It's award-winning golf on the Strip, Vegas style. Book your ultimate golf experience now at valleyhighgolfclub.com.
Welcome back in. It is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. Brady Kannon, James Salinas, and Mike Pritchard with you. And we dive back into the Week 11 card from an against the spread perspective. And James, I'm going to go right to your neck of the woods. The Denver Broncos off a heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. They will play host to the Atlanta Falcons, my friend.
This is thinking about where Atlanta was last week. This is just such a front-running team that when things start to fall apart, they're fragile. And if they're not, we know that the talent that they have, the weapons that they have, especially in particular on offense. But when things start to unravel, you're not seeing a lot of leadership. You're not seeing a lot of mental toughness. And last week, not being able to go down and beat a bad Saints. Now we know, and Pritch, you can definitely speak to this. The intensity in that rivalry between the Saints and the Falcons. Well, the Falcons couldn't match that. And new coach aside, whatever, when it comes to the Saints, like they just did not bring that same level of hunger and intensity to that game. Now they've got to try to lick their wounds and come here to Denver. And I think for Denver, it was a heartbreaking loss last week against the division rival Kansas City Chiefs, blocking the field goal. It seems like the Chiefs week in and week out just find whatever way they need to win. Offense, defense, special teams in that case there made it happen. But very impressed with Denver's ability to bounce back and be competitive. We saw that after getting throttled a couple weeks back in Baltimore. This is this team's really, from a defensive standpoint, they're very physical. I don't think Atlanta's going to be able to match the physicality when it comes to what Denver's going to do defensively. And on the other side, I think that's the biggest issue for me for Atlanta having to go on the road. I know they're a small dog here going into Denver, but this defense doesn't apply any pressure. They're last in the league when it comes to sacks. They got 9 sacks so far this season. They played some pretty putrid teams and offenses and quarterbacks. They've only got 9 sacks. They allow 70%. It's all kind of correlated, right? If you only have 9 sacks, their pressure rate is the least in the NFL, which means it leads to the biggest percentage completion for opposing quarterbacks week in and week out. Over 70% teams are completing, their quarterbacks are completing passes against this Falcons defense. And I think for Bo Nix, we just see growth week in and week out with Peyton in the system. He knows what he went after him. He got him. He put him and he's plugging him in, playing to his strengths, being able to get him out with some mobility and finding some easy passes and easy throws for him in this matchup. And I think the last thing, Pritch, and you know this, playing here in Denver back in the 90s, the old Mile High anyway, and it's a new Mile High, a little more wine and cheese crowd, not quite as blue collar, especially in the South stands here in Denver like it used to be. But I grew up right next to that stadium, and I could feel my house shaking when a big play would happen. That stadium used to rock. That stadium is starting to rock again. I think it's a great home field advantage, not only from the crowd perspective, but also the altitude perspective and just the softness that we've seen out of Atlanta on the defensive side. I really like the Broncos this week, laying the 2.5, Rich.
Yeah, you said it, James. I mean, they're going to have the no-fly zone return too this week to kind of rev up that crowd. So Aqib Talib and Chris Harris and all those guys are going to be back out there. The alumni are going to be back there for this one. Atlanta, here's all you got to know. To me, Atlanta is 6-4, and they're 4-1. They're in the division. So
Right.
outside of the division and certainly outside the conference, they're 0-2. And now take them on a road in Mile High or in that altitude where you're having a very efficient offense and a defense that is ferocious. I think Vance Joseph is trying to get another head coaching job, or opportunity anyway. He's got a bunch of no-name guys playing at a high level. So Denver is very attractive to me. It's under a field goal too. So I like that situation and on the card and certainly from a betting standpoint. Just laying that with the Broncos there at home. You know, another one, Brady, and it's a featured matchup when you're thinking about all these games we have this week. And James talked about it. The Chiefs just find ways to win. And that's dangerous to me because they're not playing their best football. You know, they've been injured. They've managed the season, right? And then they just find ways to exploit certain situations and get the dub. And that's a confidence builder for a football team that knows that they're taking everybody's best shot. And I think, you know, if you're Buffalo, you're getting encouraged because Milano might come back and your defense is playing better. Their slot corner is awesome. And some young pups have really stepped up. But they're injured a little bit on offense with Dalton Kincaid at tight end and then certainly Mark Cooper. I'm not sure about the youngster, his availability yet. I haven't seen the injury report in terms of whether he's going to be able to go or not. But here you go, Josh Allen as a favorite against the Chiefs. Anytime I can get one of the best teams in football and they're a good dog, I love that situation with the Chiefs. What do you think there, Brady?
Well, I tell you what, you're no stranger to a teaser play, Mr. Pritchard, and the Chiefs on a 6-point teaser would be in my portfolio, I'm sure. But I'm probably going to stay away from this game. The whole world is going to be on Kansas City because, like you say, Patrick Mahomes is a dog. And like James says, they just continue to find ways to win, you know, cover the spread or not. It feels to me like the Bills win this game. But it's like the Ravens game. I'm going to sit back and enjoy this one. I don't really want to risk my hard-earned money on trying to guess what this result is going to be. It feels like the Bills are going to win here. The Chiefs get them later on when the game really matters. We will see. I'll probably sit back and be a fan. The one I am going to get invested in, Sunday Night Football, I think it'll be a beauty. The Chargers and the Bengals, a couple of teams that might be on people's radar as far as potential future bets that they want to make. I think Harbaugh and company come out and make a statement. I made this number 3. It's only 1.5 in the live market and in the contest. I think it's a coaching mismatch. The defense, that defense or lack thereof for Cincinnati, I like the Lightning Bolts here at home on Sunday night, James.
Well, I think it's a matchup. We've seen Cincinnati not be able to stop the run. And sometimes we got to handicap coaches too. So it's not just the players, who's in, who's out, and how do the players perform and what does the scheme look like? Do they stay consistent with it? But I think can the coaches stay consistent with what the game plan needs to be, what it should be based on the matchup? And if things start to go awry, can they still remain consistent with that? I think for somebody like Harbaugh, we know it's going to be a ground and pound. And this is a team with a really good offensive line. And they've allowed Herbert to start to fire the football more down the field since they come off the bye the last few games. But I think this is if they get back to the running game like they should, knowing that's where the advantage is in the matchup is for the Chargers, is at the point of attack, rushing the football, keeping Burrow and company in that awesome passing attack on the sideline. If you're grinding out the clock, I think that's the matchup here. And if they stick to it, I trust Harbaugh to make that happen. So I do. I like the Chargers in this matchup too.
Is it true that the Chargers are only allowing 13 points a game?
Yes.
Did you guys see that?
Oh, it's tremendous. You could argue they're the best defense in the league. And I think the perception is thrown off a little bit by what the Bengals did last week to the Ravens. This is a whole different ball game here in Los Angeles with that defense. I like the Chargers. We wrap up the program, give out our picks for Week 11 when we return.
Steiner's, a Nevada-style pub, invites you to play the best keno and video poker in Las Vegas. Promos are how we roll, so make the most of your gaming dollars with ongoing promotions, daily free play, bonuses, and more. With a chance to win Knights, Raiders, Aviators tickets, and big money with all those jackpots. It's not only great gaming at Steiner's, it's the 24 awesome rotating draft beers and the best appetizers to match. Steiner's, the Nevada-style pub, with 3 locations across the Vegas Valley. Steiner's, I love this place.
Welcome back in. It is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show presented by Circus Sports and Westgate Las Vegas Superbook. It is time to release our contest selections. I will start with the Westgate Las Vegas Super Contest. We are on the Packers laying 5 points at Chicago. We're on the Cleveland Browns getting a point at New Orleans. We are on the Denver Broncos laying 2.5 at home hosting the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to take the Chargers on Sunday night, laying 1.5 to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the game that was flexed out of that Sunday night spot, the New York Jets, we're going to go against them. We're going to take the 4 points with the Indianapolis Colts. And speaking of the Colts, that brings us to our Dom DeMarco's Pizza prop money play of the week. And that is going to be on Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson to go over his rushing total of 38.5 yards. You got to lay minor juice there. But Anthony Richardson, the running quarterback, is installed back in that lineup for the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to take him over 38.5 yards rushing. And James, the one game that is on our card that we have yet to discuss is the Indianapolis Colts at the New York Jets. What say you, my friend?
Well, hopefully we talked about coaches staying true to form and understanding what the matchup looks like and dictating what the game plan should be. And we know the Colts can run the football. And against this Jets team, they better do it for 4 quarters. I don't even think they should throw a pass in this game. Just line up and push the ball right down the Jets' throats, because it's clear that the Jets do not want to tackle. They do not want to play defense. We've seen it not only last week. They missed 20 tackles against the Arizona Cardinals last week. 20 tackles. Their interim coach had to come on and do this little like peewee football type of tackling drill and demonstration. Here, everybody gather around, eyes the sky, get your shoulder pads lower, give them a big hug and drive their ass into the ground, which what they have not done. But that was only just last week. Yes, they missed 20 tackles last week, but over the last 5 weeks, this team, and as far as the Jets are concerned on the defensive side, have given up the most yards after contact. They're averaging over 100 yards given up after contact on the defensive side. So it's not about these guys know how to tackle. I think the coach was trying to send a message. And if you're going to play like little boys, I'm going to coach you like little boys. And we're going to go back to little fundamentals and basics. Well, this is just a team that doesn't want to be out there. There's some guys that love to tackle. There's some guys that do it just because they have to get through it to do it. We haven't seen it out of the Jets for the last 5 weeks. Forget about the other side here. I was really surprised that this number was +4 when it came to the Colts. If Steichen goes and says, we need to run the football each and every time we're out there, not only with Anthony Richardson, but with JT as well, Pritch, I think this is a game where the Colts can just take the heart. If there's any heart left for the Jets, we'll find out Sunday. I don't know if there's any heartbeat left, but if they go out and rush the football and play to their strengths like they're capable of, now with Anthony Richardson back at quarterback, I think they win this game outright.
Yeah, they do. I mean, the Colts, Anthony Richardson has to prove a lot, right? And he's got to earn it, earn the respect of his peers, earn the respect of the coaches, of the teammates. And that's why I think he's thrusted back into his position. And the best way for him to earn it is for him to play the game that he's accustomed to, and that's running the rock. And certainly incorporating him as a 6 eligible, whether they're going to do play action or certainly the read option. And you're right. I mean, what stands out on tape is just watching the lack of willingness to tackle or the lack of willingness to be physical by the Jets. And, oh, by the way, I wonder how that happened to them. Oh, they fired their head coach who's a defensive-minded head coach, right? So the Jets, man, the problem really hasn't been Aaron Rodgers. He's been part of the problem. But to me, all year long, you can see it with the Jets. So they're, in terms of their lack of willingness to be physical and mix it up. So I think the Colts have the better offensive line. They're built from the trenches inside out anyway. Pittman's coming back. I mean, this is going to be an energized Colts team that I think, even though there's rumors that they wanted Flacco, but, if you're a quarterback, if you're a player, if you go out there and make plays and you start to earn the respect your teammates, all of a sudden now they start to fight for you. So if AR gets that on his side, I think the Colts can be very dangerous in this game against the Jets.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I just don't understand the numbers that continue to come out in the odds board on the New York Jets. In this case, in the role of the favorite once again, as they were last week against the Arizona Cardinals. We saw how that went. I made the Jets a 2.5-point favorite, basically saying they're about a point better than the Colts, maybe giving them a point or a 1.5 for home field. And then it comes out at 4. And when I crunched all my stats, it comes out to 2.5. So I can see the Jets winning, but are they going to win by 5? I don't think so. That is going to do it for this week. We are on the Packers, the Browns, the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Colts. And again, our Dom DeMarco's Pizza Money prop play of the week, Anthony Richardson, over 38.5 yards rushing. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. Good luck with all your picks. We'll be back for more next week on the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Thanks for tuning in to the Las Vegas Football Contest Show.
Don't you just love football? God, what a fun sport.
Subscribe today on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts to receive weekly alerts as soon as the show's available. Good luck with your contest selections.
Pay that man his money.
And we'll talk to you next week.